Hello, welcome to Podnas. This is a sports show with some Southern and Cajun flair. I'm Daniel Hawks. That's Jared Roser. Got that wrong, just like Mel Kiper got everything in the NFL draft wrong that involves Shedeur Sanders this weekend. But that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about this NFL draft, how the Saints did in their day 2 and 3 picks, and then also the massive meltdown of an ESPN personality that could not just admit that he was wrong like he wasn't with Jimmy Clausen, but he was more wrong about Shedeur Sanders. How we doing, Jared? What's up?
Todd. Look, I am great this Monday morning, to
Oh
be
my
honest with
God.
you. After watching the way that all unfolded this weekend, it was obviously, the talking point of social media all weekend was everything going on with Shedeur Sanders and his slide through the draft and Mel Kiper's, you said meltdown. I mean, his wild reactions starting Thursday night all the way through Friday, and then even some of his draft grades to start the week were kind of super Shedeur slanted, and so it was pretty interesting to say the least. But I'm doing well. I enjoyed the draft, and
In
I'm looking
the
forward to another week.
in the let's see, one, two. The third sentence of his draft recap on ESPN that I'm looking at right now, he says, I would have had a much higher grade on Shedeur Sanders than I did on Tyler Shuck, who the Saints picked on day 2, which we will go over very shortly. But the man couldn't even. We talked about this off air. The only team that got an A+ from him was. Can you take any guesses? Do you have a guess? Okay, it was the Cleveland Browns
Well, I'm
because of their
yeah. I
fifth
don't know
round fifth round star.
if you were just doing Blues Clues there and talking to the audience, but I absolutely knew the only A
Yeah,
plus he gave was to the Browns, and then to your point, it was that much more hysterical to then get to the Saints grade and have the Saints grade hinge on not taking Shedeur Sanders. And you may, in a couple of years, look back at this draft and say everyone missed on Shedeur Sanders. We talked about it last week. I didn't expect Shedeur to be a first round pick necessarily, or wasn't overly confident he might be. At no point did I expect him to slide all the way to the 5th, but we
no,
got into
no.
some of those issues that we talked about in the first round recap of he was a good but not great quarterback in a lot of ways, and there were only a few teams that were looking for a starting quarterback, and throughout the draft process he and his dad really expressed a
Well, yeah, and you also almost get in a fight with
confidence,
a
overconfidence, and
yeah, you almost get in a fight with an NFL coach in your interview. Then it's like that news travels pretty fast, and that will affect. I don't care who your dad is or was. I just feel like
yeah.
with Shador, and this has been. We don't have to belabor this point because I believe it's been talked about by everyone over and over again. But all of the other stuff that comes with him, not as a football player, is the reason. And the caliber of football player that he is, and all that stuff that comes with him is the reason. So I don't think anyone in the NFL saw him as high as the media and the social media atmosphere has like built up this dude. Well, I don't think he's bad. I mean, he led he led FBS in completion percentage. Like I believe he is a capable quarterback. But if you're going to be one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the entire world, like it's a different tier above. And we see a lot of people, i.e., Jimmy Clausen, one of Mel Kiper's other babies, come in and they've been starlets their entire football playing career, and then you get to the NFL, and if if you don't got it, you don't got it. All right, gonna get bounced out real quickly, like Jamarcus. All right, so
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead. I didn't
I
have any
think
more.
I think it's important we talk about everything else that comes with Shedeur and all of these things. By all accounts, he has been a hard worker and a hell of a leader. He obviously hasn't gotten into all of the legal issues. So like none of that stuff that we usually talk about in terms of red flags or character issues. That's not really the deal with Shedeur. It's more of just his talent level not matching what kind of the hype around him was, and not knowing there were a few spots around the league for a starting quarterback, and a sense with the kid and the people around him that if you're not ready to change your entire culture to fit me, then you're looking at the wrong guy type of an energy. And so some of that just clearly didn't fly in a year where the quarterback class wasn't great, and people were not looking for quarterbacks at quite the same rate as in some recent years.
And do you, if you're an NFL front office coaching staff, do you want to deal with having to get shots from like 1,000 miles away in a weekly Colorado press conference if you draft him that high? I don't think I would. I think I would let it slide. And now, those shots are going to be like, yeah, well, your kid was drafted in the 5th round. So we're going to let him develop on the bench, which honestly, I think every single quarterback should, besides, a select few outliers. Like I think getting a year, a minimum, at least a year, maybe 3/4 or half a year, I would guess to say is more realistic, but I would say minimum a year. Get that under your belt. And it's just so much. We've seen it with Jordan Love, with Aaron Rodgers, with Tom Brady. You get that time, Brock Purdy, to learn the offense, and you can come out no matter where you were drafted and be a really, really successful and good NFL player. Great. Like Kirk Cousins has gotten the biggest bag of any quarterback and has finessed the game so much and getting his money. And that man was a 4th round draft pick and has severe limitations. But you can make the most of it if you take the time to really learn the offense. And like a lot of these quarterbacks are, or especially when they're picked early on, just thrown in to the fire. And then you see, I bet if Justin Fields could have sat for the first year in Chicago, we'd be talking about him completely differently. But he was thrown into a awful franchise with awful, awful everything around him, and was expected to be everything. And that's just not realistic on a game on this level with this many high value pieces that every single team has.
I agree with all of that at a position where you can see how much the confidence and mindset can be shaken when things are gone about the wrong way, and how bad habits can be learned when you're constantly scrambling and running for your life, or you're being miscoached, or whatever the case may be. And I think just kind of, one final tidbit from me, or perspective from me on the Shedeur piece of all of it, is everything in the Shedeur situation, or people that do have those bigger red flags we talked about. Something that tweeted at Hellman this weekend, David Hellman this weekend, as he mentioned, it's crazy how many red flags can be overlooked if you're talented enough to overlook it. And everything goes back to essentially the How I Met Your Mother. I think it's the Vicky Mendoza line of hot to crazy. Yeah. The more talented you are, the more leeway those teams are going to give you. And for Shedeur, the red flags aren't the level that some other people's red flags are, but the talent level was kind of wildly misjudged in terms of immediate impact potential by the Sanders family and some other folks that kind of let that hype build. And so while I don't think the red flags are that big, he's someone that clearly the league looked at as you're probably a backup and need some development here for these coming years. And so we're not going to spend my pick. We'll maybe take a swing on you more mid to late rounds. Yeah. I still, again, I think he's a higher round pick than he ended up being from my perspective, but it is what it is. Now he's just got to go to work and prove it.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with him learning under like a Super Bowl winning quarterback with Joe Flacco. Actually, 2 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. So I don't think there's anything wrong with kind of learning the way, and Shedeur's been around it, and we can move off of this because I know we're taking up most of our time right after this. But just learning the NFL locker room, learning the ways to go out and be a pro, and he probably has a little bit more sense of that, like growing up around his dad and growing up around the league. But still, this is going to be the first time that he isn't coached by his father, so there's going to be a lot of change that's happening for him, and it's going to be a lot for anyone to take. Much less when probably your whole how you play football and how you interact with the day-to-day stuff is going to be completely different. That's, another thing going into this. So I wouldn't want to just immediately start him with all that being the case as well. I would want to get him acclimated, and you have the ability to do that with him falling. You don't have to linchpin so much success because he's a higher draft pick. I'm not saying he
And I
should have
know
called it
we're
a
about
fifth,
to jump in.
but
Right. Yeah. I think we're both on the same page with that. That look, we probably didn't think he was a first round guy, but we also don't think he's a fifth, and that I would have expected him to go somewhere in the second or third. I was pretty surprised when we got through Friday night without him. But all that being said, as much as we joke about the Mel Kiper draft grades and all those things, I do think he becomes an intriguing later round flyer for a Browns team that I think had one of the better drafts in the league as we kind of transition out to some of the bigger pictures and things. The Browns, I think, do deserve some credit for making that move along with some of the other early round moves that they made. Honestly, the other quarterback, the Dylan Gabriel move in the third round, was higher than I anticipated that, but most of the rest of the Browns draft I thought was good.
yeah, their defensive line is going to be silly now with Mason Graham and and Myles Garrett. So, but let's move on to the Saints. Saints had a bevy of picks. They had 9 picks in this draft, so they were picking a lot, and they needed it because they don't have any cap space and they have a lot of things that they need to fill. So, what were your thoughts on this Saints draft? Highlights, lowlights, things that you kind of scratched your head at? Because I have a couple for sure. And yeah, what were your thoughts on this draft for New Orleans?
Similarly, we joke about the fact that Mel Kiper referenced Shedeur Sanders so quickly in his Saints breakdown, but ultimately the quarterback choice in the second round, Tyler Shuck, I think how he goes is how this draft grade is going to look over the next couple years. I think there's a lot of reasons to think that the Saints draft is solid, but not top half of the league, even solid right now as we look at it. But if Tyler Shuck ends up looking like the guy that some of his bigger proponents think he is, it has a chance to turn into a pretty good overall Saints draft class if he ends up being a guy that is still a college football player at 25 years old for a reason, and the injuries remain an issue or any of those type of things. Then it has a chance to be one of the lower few drafts by any team around the league. And so how that guy pans out is really going to have a huge say in how this draft pans out. Unsurprisingly, when you're talking about a second round pick and a quarterback, but he's someone that I am cautiously optimistic about, but I certainly see the concerns of being an older draft pick who has taken a while to get to where he is and has had injury issues along the way.
He throws the ball away a lot, i.e. Derek Carr. It's frustrating to say the least. From the Derek Carr perspective, I haven't watched as much on Tyler Shuck, but that's from the stuff that I've heard. I haven't done a deep dive into it as much besides a few times that I watched Louisville this past year. But Derek Carr throws the ball away a lot, and it's really annoying. I'm going to curse here. It's really annoying. Okay. And so just getting more of that again, I would say the only thing is Kellen Moore is so good with quarterbacks. If he can get his system really entrenched, I think it could be a really good pick. But I also maybe would have liked to see them take there was I believe in the second round, the cornerback out of Michigan, I'm blanking on the name right now. He was still around. There were both those edge rushers around. So they go with defensive line in that next round. I would have maybe liked to see them with a little bit more pedigree, high talent, on that edge or in the secondary, take someone in that second. But Tyler Shuck, outside of the injuries, like he had a really good last couple of years. I mean, he can throw the ball really well. I think it's just trusting the decision making, and let's hope it's not Derek Carr 2.0 because I will lose my fucking mind.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of your assessment is clearly a lot of your Derek Carr trauma just leaking into.
It is so much. It is going bad.
Pick.
You see me just have to lean back and catch myself.
But ultimately, The plus side of Shuck being this older prospect and having been in multiple systems and having seen an awful lot of football is an expectation that he should be able to be more ready to roll more quickly heading into the league. And he's someone that even a guy like Lou Riddick on the ESPN broadcast this weekend, who was at many turns right there kind of piggybacking along with Kuiper of the frustration of why is Shedeur sliding. Lou Riddick coming out of the combine talked about Shuck as maybe the cleanest, most put together performer of all of the quarterbacks of the combine. And so there are a lot of people that have said a lot of really encouraging things about the way that he operates, from, I mean, good footwork down at the base all the way up to really good arm talent, the ability to change some arm angles, the arm strength to make any throw on the field, and the ability to squeeze some things into some tight pockets. And so there's a lot of reasons to be encouraged there. And ultimately, you're trusting Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier, as you said, and their evaluation being certainly stronger than ours. We would hope, and their ability to develop guys, as we've seen at their previous stops in a lot of ways. And that was a guy that they really wanted. They identified as someone that they thought could be valuable to this class, and they didn't have to trade up and go get him, as much as it would have been interesting to see going into the draft. A lot of us on the outside thinking, could he be available at 71? That would be great if you go get a defender at 40, Shuck at 71. Nick Underhill from NOLA Football has pretty adamantly said, kind of talking to his sources around the league, that there was no way Shuck would be there in the third round for the Saints. And so they felt like they had to get him, and they didn't give any extra draft capital to make it happen. So you're just kind of betting on Kellen Moore, Doug Nussmeier and company.
Yeah, I feel like I just feel like, and this happened, I think, a couple times, which I do a little bit agree with the Mel Kiper assessment of the draft, is that the Saints reached a lot, and I get some of the reasons why they reached, but I feel like maybe just a little tinkering of, instead of reaching, like, let's trade back and maybe get one more like fifth rounder in there, get one more sixth rounder in there, or maybe get a day three, whether it's third or fourth, or fourth or fifth or something like that, and move back a little bit, still able maybe to get Shuck because you just drop down like 10 spots, but you're not necessarily reaching for him, which I just felt at that early in the second round with what else was available, that it was just a slight reach. And also, like I said, you said, my Derek Carr trauma is coming out a lot. But one thing from everything that I read about this whole process is that, unlike Deion Sanders' son Shedeur, Tyler Shuck crushed almost every single interview that was in. Like, I heard that front office and general managers, from everything that they put out there, really, really loved what he did in the interviews. And not to say that that's going to do anything on the football field, but it is I think it's a bigger thing than we realize for these NFL teams and for these people that are scouting these prospects.
Yeah, no doubt. And he is a piece, again, of a class that looks like it has the chance to be solid, if not, flashy or eye-catching necessarily coming out of the draft, but they addressed some spots. They got some guys later in the draft. I didn't realize Quincy Riley, the other Louisville prospect that they drafted, was going to be there at 131 where they took him. I think he's an interesting guy, particularly Brandon Staley and company coming over and kind of revamping the defense probably suit him a little bit more with some of the coverage looks they throw out there. It might fit his strengths and not, have his weaknesses glare as much as they may have in other places around the league. So, and Danny Stutzman, you got to shout out the guy who on Instagram called himself Communion because he's the cracker with the juice. So if you add that energy to the middle of your defense and a 6'3" linebacker that is just an absolute thumper, that's a positive.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really great. I almost curse-jarred myself again, and that one was just, I didn't even mean to. I was just that happy about it. I also really like the kid out of Kansas, Devin Neal. I think he's a solid running back, and I think he can give some help to that as well, because, we'll see outside of Alvin Kamara if anyone kind of steps up to be a complementary piece to him, with Taysom Hill coming off that surgery or coming off that injury. I'm not sure if he had surgery or not. I believe he did. But yeah, I think that's a really nice late piece that could provide some at least a little bit of depth and stability for the Saints this season.
What would you grade if you were having to throw grades for whatever that's worth? It's obviously, I mean, it's more of a talking point coming on a draft than anything.
I think the C plus to B minus that I've seen most around the places is pretty correct. Like I said, I just thought there was some stuff, especially in the earlier rounds, that were a little reachy, you know.
Yeah.
And not that they're bad, and not that they're going to be bad players. I just think that, and I think this is a lot with the Saints team and Mickey Loomis in general. Is like, yeah, you kind of did what the need of the team is, but like also like, why'd you do it that way? like, like there are other options for you, man. Why did you choose this route to do this? Okay, we're just not they're just not going to have a coach for months and months and months while you're going through this process. Uh, you know, you're just we're going to restructure again and kind of push out. Okay, sure. Oh, you don't have a lot of cap room, but you're going to sign Brandon Cooks to a deal way bigger than you should when Brandon Cooks is way past his prime, and you don't have a quarterback, really? Okay, cool. That's fine. So it's just stuff like that where like I said, it's a move where these all the positions, and I think the Saints filled out a lot of need here. And with 9 picks in the draft, like, and a team that is so hamstrung by their cap situation, you had to address that stuff in the draft. But I just feel like that maybe B minus. I would say B minus. You?
Yeah.
What you
Yeah.
got?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, same. I would say right now, just with what we know and the inability to see the future, I'd probably say B minus. And then again, Shuck could really swing that thing.
Yeah.
A couple spots, whether it be up to a B plus A minus if he really surprised a lot of people, or
Well,
if he does not pan out, you're suddenly down into the C's.
I also
Hopefully
think the
not
Saints
below range.
having the tackle situation figured out now, and you can move Fuega back to his natural position and hopefully put Kelvin Banks at left tackle. And having that tackle situation is such a big uh, plus for any quarterback coming in. Having that offensive line where you are going to get that extra, half second to make that extra read is, I think, huge, because that extra half second in the NFL can mean you're a top 10 offense, as opposed to you look like the Browns last year, or you look like the Saints last year, where, Spencer Rattler was sacked 22 times in 6 games. A lot of that was him, but that makes a difference, and makes a difference for a young rookie. And that Saints fans of anyone should know how much that is, having to watch the Spencer Rattler development process last year.
Yeah, and so you address that line. You use a second round pick on a quarterback that you think can come in and say, essentially, throw the balls out there. Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shuck, y'all go compete and see who is the guy outside of Derek Carr, who we still kind of await to see what the heck's going to go on there long term. And you come out of this draft with the front addressed in a lot of ways, a little bit of a quarterback competition. You didn't reach for a quarterback at 9. And if it doesn't pan out, then in a better 26 or 27 quarterback draft, then go ahead and don't feel bad about going to take another shot at that position at that point.
Excuse me.
With a better foundation of a team, particularly up front around you.
I can't wait for the NFL season. The one thing though I wasn't a fan of was how much they were shoving down just little, hey, May 14th, we're going to drop the schedule. It's like, I don't care. Just drop the schedule. Like at a certain point especially on day 2 or 3, like I wasn't even watching as much outside of just Mel Kiper burning takes on Shedeur Sanders. But I like to just check in. Once the draft is done, let me just see what happened. And then I can assess from there. I don't need to just watch every single pick like that. And that's what I felt they were trying to do with anything for the NFL upcoming season, just whatever they could do. Hey, they're putting in new candy machines and all. We're going to live stream it. It's going to be on June 2nd. You're going to know what teams are going to be able to eat in their practice facility. It was like all this stupid stuff where I was like, come on, how much juice are we squeezing out of this?
They do a fantastic job of squeezing all of that juice out, though, to stick with that metaphor. And fans keep lining up with the glasses ready for their next pint of juice to, for that day. I mean, the schedule release dynamic, I'm with you of it. It's never been something that registered to me in nearly that big of an event type of a dynamic, but it has become a big event type day in May for the NFL for a lot of fans around the country.
Yeah.
And the teams do a great job with the creative releases on social media and all those things. And so kudos to the league and their ability to, I know our buddy Nick Brown appreciates the ability to monetize and maximize everything at their disposal. And my goodness, does the NFL do that at an extremely high level?
Yeah, absolutely. And other leagues should take note of how they do that because they just don't have the same juice as the NFL does. So
yeah,
another draft in the books. That's it. We're going to see how these people play out in this upcoming season, upcoming couple seasons, see what happens. Jared, do you have any last takeaways before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, just rattling through some of the LSU and Louisiana guys. We talked a lot about Will on Friday.
Absolutely.
Obviously, Will Campbell, the former Neville and LSU star, kicking off both the big LSU weekend and big Louisiana weekend. Going down the list for the Tigers, Mason Taylor, a second-round pick to the Jets. Emory Jones.
I love that one, by the way.
Yeah, they did. I think we talked some about the dynamic of the Saints potentially trying to combo pick a situation and recognizing the strengths and weaknesses of the draft. The Jets, who were one of the teams that were looked at in the first round as, is this a tight end landing spot for a Loveland or a Tyler Warren? They go and get themselves Membu, an offensive lineman, in the first round, knowing, hey, we can go get Mason Taylor, a fantastic tight end prospect, in the second round. And so love that as well. A couple of LSU guys and a couple of Louisiana guys in the third round. Emory Jones Jr., the Catholic High and LSU lineman heading to Baltimore. Savion Jones, the St. James and LSU defensive end, heading up to Denver. Sean Payton, Jamar Cain and company trading up to go get him. He becomes the first draftee out of St. James High since Corey Webster in 2005. And so that was really cool for him. Continue with LSU, Braden Swinson and Miles Frazier, 5th-round picks to the Patriots and Detroit Lions, respectively, and Garrett Dellinger to the Ravens in the 7th round. So 4 offensive linemen from LSU drafted in the same draft for the first time since 1947, way before football looked like it does now, and particularly the draft looked like it does now. And then the other Louisiana guys, 2nd-round run for the 337, Trey Harris, the receiver from Como High, and most recently out of Ole Miss, he's heading to the Chargers. Jack Besh, where I was Friday night, a one-time LSU signee out of St. Thomas More, coming out of TCU now. He's going to Vegas. Trey Amos, Catholic New Iberia, heading up to Washington to go play corner on that Jaden Daniels-led Commanders team. 4th-round guys, Trevor Etienne, Jennings High running back, Travis's little brother heading to Carolina Panthers. Barron Sorrell, Holy Cross defensive end, heading up to Green Bay. Dylan Sampson, record-setting running back from Dutchtown and Tennessee, broke records at both levels. He's heading to Cleveland Browns with that good class that they had. And then in the 5th round, Cam Jackson, a one-time LSU commit at Haynesville, ends up going to Memphis and then Florida. He's now going to the Carolina Panthers as a 5th-round pick. And shout out to a couple of Tulane guys, too. Caleb Ransaw in the 3rd round in Jacksonville and Micah Robinson in the 7th round to Green Bay.
I'm going to give like a little, they'll do like an audience, like, yeah, congrats, y'all, on there. So congrats to everyone that got drafted this weekend. It's super cool to see all these young men's dreams like come to fruition. That is one of the really cool things about this weekend, and things that I really love seeing. So congrats to all those guys for putting in that hard work and finally seeing it come to bear fruit, if you will. So that's it. That's the draft. That's all we got. We're going to be coming back next week. We've got NFL going on. We obviously will have all the off-season stuff as we're leading in to the new football season for both college and pro. But I think that's all we got for you. Anything else before I go? I rattle off the socials and make sure that they like and share us and please love us.
No, that's about it, man. Big congrats to these folks. As emotional as I can kind of get sometimes, even with signing days and how big those are for the guys coming out of high school. This is that on a whole nother level, and having a chance to be there for Jack and his family and everything they've been through. And just, I mean, even before the way that this year has gone, knowing them for as long as I have, it was really weird. I mean, not weirdly, but it was emotional to be standing there holding the camera and getting clips of that and kind of like tearing up myself, just kind of knowing what that meant to those folks. And so huge congrats to everyone we just mentioned, as well as a lot of guys signing deals late Saturday and early Sunday to go try and make their team the undrafted route.
Hey, yeah, and we'll keep you updated on all that. But please, if you like this video, like it, share it, comment. We want to hear from you. Reach out to either of us on Instagram at podness_LA, LA versus all y'all. And then also on Twitter, it's LA versus all y'all as well. That's all we got. We'll see you next time. Podness out.